the more you as a team can focus on putting the right processes in place, creating a playbook, right, for marketing best practices.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you can quickly get overwhelmed. And like I've made that mistake before.
Okay.
So being mindful of capacity, I think that's probably the thing I wish I knew when I started out.
Welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by Netsertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. Netsertive's Madeline Park talked shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Art of Franchise Marketing, a podcast series brought to you by Netsertive. I'm Madeline Park, the Director of Marketing. We are a digital marketing partner that works with franchisors to implement and localize marketing campaigns for their franchisees. Today, our guest is Anna Kyatt, CMO at Padgett Business Services. Anna, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we'll just get right into it. So tell me kind of a little bit about your background, your career in marketing, and how you kind of came to franchising in the role you have now.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is really in digital marketing. So I started out in the early days of digital, working at American Express in the digital marketing department. And then after business school, I went to Google and I worked there for 4 years, helping build the Google Cloud and Google Workspace business.
Oh, wow.
After that, I was at SoFi, the fintech, where I led student loan marketing. And then I joined Padgett to lead marketing. And as you can imagine, I was in for a big surprise, right? Like coming from companies that were very tech forward and very much emphasized like cutting edge digital marketing to the accounting sector. So
Mhm.
that was a really big change, but I think presents a lot of opportunity.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that they're still utilizing your SoFi marketing because I think I get one of those direct mailers every day to the point where I'm like, I think I should probably do this now.
Okay. Yeah. I think it takes 7 to 9 mailers until we get a response. So
Yep. There it is. Still
good
happening.
at it.
All right. So tell us about Padgett. I know when a lot of people think franchising, they think of Burger King or McDonald's or, fun, big, cool things like that. But they tend to not realize the very instrumental operational backend that is also franchised like Padgett. So kind of take us through their brand and the number of locations and your current growth goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So Padgett Business Services is a brand that really has a long legacy. Like we've been around for well over 50 years and it started out as an accounting firm in Athens, Georgia, and really, had a model of serving American small businesses as their trusted advisor for all things finance related and even related to their personal life. Many of our accountants are sometimes marriage counselors, like they do what they need to do to help their clients succeed. And so we grew very, very quickly. And, at one point, there were over 400 Padgett locations. Today, we are at 170 locations across the US with another 100 in Canada. And our mission is really to help, American small businesses, which are the bedrock of the American economy, to succeed. And we grew a good deal, especially when you think about the accounting sector as a whole
Mhm.
over the course of the pandemic. And we're looking to continue that growth. So we grew over 13% during the pandemic.
Wow. That is awesome. And I'm sure people were knocking on your doors going, how do I navigate any of this financial so that it doesn't ruin me? I know I was definitely in that boat. So just, expanding on that, because the nuance of the industry is it's mostly, business to business. So what are some obstacles you face when you're marketing in your industry and kind of doing that top down funnel from the franchisor to the franchisees?
Yeah. So we have a unique challenge in that accountants are inherently entrepreneurial, right? So they start out, working for a big four firm or working as a junior accountant or staff member in another practice. And then, their goal is to really work for themselves and to have the flexibilities and freedoms that having a professional services business should afford. And so, on the other hand, as a franchise, the more brand recognition and brand consistency we have, the more, we can attract new franchisees. So that striking that balance of helping our owners be their entrepreneurial selves while maintaining and building a strong, consistent brand is a big challenge for us. And I think the other challenge that we have is that, we're in a world where increasingly you have accounting software companies that are perceived competitors to us, right?
Right.
So small businesses believe or feel like for a time they can replace their accountant with, a QuickBooks or a FreshBooks, but it's not really the case because our accountants bring like community knowledge, the personal touch, the expertise that you just don't get through a software platform. So helping our owners to believe that and helping to push that message into the market is another challenge that we have.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good topic to hit on is that I'm hearing a lot in the industry of like, oh, marketing versus AI or human versus machine. And I'm like, no, it's really, it's and a machine because I think, like you said, no one can replace that human emotion, the relationship building, and also, that essence that tech just can't do. I used QuickBooks for a long time and it was just missing a bunch of things that were obvious to a regular accountant because, I wasn't putting in the correct formula or this or that. So yeah, to your point, it's while you're working against technology, you're also preaching like you can integrate technology, but you still need to have that human, oversight, if you will. So I know you said accountants are inherently entrepreneurial. And when I think of accountants, and mostly because I can't do math and I'm jealous, but they tend to not be more on the creative side. So on that, do you guys like require a marketing spend? And if so, do you require certain creative that they use? How do you guys support that certain type of, market franchisee?
Yeah, absolutely. And so just before we answer that, to your other point about like people and technology, I mean, that is so true because, I'd say a third challenge that we have is that the time of year when there's the most demand for accounting services is the time of year that our owners are most overwhelmed, right? And trying to serve their current clients. And so to the extent that the owner can leverage software, and good processes to scale, the more they are freed up to bring in new clients and to grow their business. And
Sure.
so helping them seize that opportunity and not be afraid of change is kind of striking the right balance there. But to your next question about requiring a marketing spend, yes. So we require that our franchisees have an online presence, right? Because more and more people are finding their accountant online. And so if you're not online, really the only way that you can grow is through referral. And if you're growing only through referral, that means that you can't ever really change your prices. You can't really ever go after a new customer segment because, your clients who are referred are expecting that you spend what you spent with their prior customer. So for that reason, we say that, you have to have a website.
Mhm.
That is the requirement. We also encourage and provide them with packages where they can get, discounted digital marketing services. We provide them with optional services to do email marketing.
Mhm.
So they don't have to, but we strongly encourage it and try to make it easy and templatized for them to send out, a monthly newsletter or the occasional email campaign to their clients.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, with most brands in the franchise space, it's digital. I know in home services, they still rely heavily on either guerrilla marketing with the yard signs or, direct mail. Do you guys do any of that, or is it just, heavily digital?
Yeah, it's a great point. So we just completed a rebrand
Hmm.
for Padgett, really optimizing our logo and our brand identity for the digital world. That being said, it does mean that our franchisees are going to have to update all of their signage and purchase all new collateral, in the new brand. And we do try to support them with that and make it easy by providing, a national site where they can purchase. So we work with Vistaprint and, we have a pro shop set up where franchisees can order all their collateral. And then on the signage side, we are working with fast signs to make it, on one hand local, on the other hand, have a signage book that we can just hand over to a franchisee to get exactly the signage they need that is still on brand.
I love that. And I love that you guys are using fast signs. One of my friends is the fast sign owner in my area. And I love that it's kind of franchise to franchise because you don't see a lot of that in the vendor space. Usually it's vendors going after franchise as their clients, but to have that relationship of, yep, you're about to deal with franchisees and you know exactly what to expect is really great. And for all the emerging brands listening, you know, to Anna's point of they're not saying, "Oh, we're gonna do it in-house or we're gonna do it for you." You can have those recommended people that have been vetted and proven and have all of the support there without having to do it yourself. I think that there's a big stigma on you must do it yourself. But as Anna's saying, with, you know, over 200 locations, you know, that's just not going to be scalable or it's not going to be able to be optimized. So, you know, making the best decision that's fit for your business and your franchisees is great. And especially having, you know, major vendors that can create your own storefronts, that's super important, especially when, you know, you've got the franchisee that's always like, where can I find our logo? And then the franchisee that's like, I'm going to get purple sweatshirts. And you're like, nope, or please don't do that. So, you know,
Yes. When
mandating
we
it for
were
it that way.
No, no, that is very, very true. And, you know, again, like I said, like we have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit within the franchise. And when we were going through our rebrand, you know, we pulled some Google satellite imagery of our franchisee signage, and we just saw the most creative, innovative uses of our
Mhm.
old logo. And similarly, our business cards, you know, we definitely see people really take a creative perspective on it. So
That's really cool. Yeah, so giving them, you know, the creative freedom to do that, but also saying, "Hey, like, let's just keep it, you know, make sure it's still in the franchise brand because that's always gonna help you." I always had to deal with, "Well, I'm an artist, so I know better." I go, "Look, your art probably is better, but unfortunately, this is the logo, so we kinda have to use this one." So, you know, making your brand governance a little bit easier there. And then on the roll up, because you do have different vendors and you do have the websites, what does that reporting look like, and how are you kinda tracking success with your franchisees?
So when it comes to our website, we do have an aggregate platform, which we use to report on everything from traffic to leads generated to the lead categorization. So we track like, you know, is it a qualified lead? Is it a spammer? So all of that is available to us to report on at a franchisee and at a corporate level for our US franchises.
Cool. And then when it comes to anything like their digital spend, do you have access to like the vendor dashboards or do you rely on the franchisees to, you know, input their marketing? How do you guys do that outside of your website?
Yeah, so I don't, you know, I don't pretend to say that we have the whole picture, right? Like I think one big area of opportunity for us is just brand consistency, right? And compliance. So we know that we have franchisees who, for example, maintain multiple websites.
Mhm.
And, you know, my belief is that the more we can provide a great website template and a great experience, the more people are going to want to go and, you know, follow our path. But to the extent that the advertising spend is done, you know, through our platform, we are able to see at the both roll up and individual level what is being spent on, you know, Google ads or LSAs or whatever format is being used.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. And I like that you're like, nope, we're not gonna because I have dealt with some franchisors that are like, we have to see where every single penny was going. I've seen franchises that comb through their franchisees' credit card statements and input it manually. I go, that sounds like it's not gonna scale well for you guys. But you know, being like, nope, they are business owners, and especially they are in the accounting business, you know, we're going to trust that they're going to, you know, do what's right and give us the information we need, especially when they want to grow. And then in terms of brand dev, it's a very similar kind of target market you're going after to expand the franchise. Are you actively expanding your franchise? And if so, is it protected territories? Because I'm sure that most of your consumer client base are probably, you know, the right types of people that to open another business. So talk me through that.
So our expansion plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about to embark on a big push to start growing our franchise again, right? So the accounting industry as a whole is one where, you know, people are looking to retire and are looking to, you know, sell their practice. And we want to make sure that we have a great pipeline of new owners, who see things our way, who are on board with our vision, but also again are entrepreneurial.
Mhm.
So we want to make sure that we have the people to match up with our owners, who are looking to retire, to looking to take that next step. And so that right now is our immediate plan for franchise growth. In terms of territories, the opportunity is huge. Like we do have a concentration of franchises in most like big metro areas,
Mhm.
but there's still a ton of room for new franchises that don't infringe on territories. We make sure that every franchise has in their territory, I believe it's like 4 to 5,000 small businesses.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the parts on the expansion is getting your pipeline in place to take over people's Padgetts that are ready to retire. I'm,
Exactly.
that's very
Exactly.
and how are you finding those people in the pipeline? Is it mostly digital?
Yeah, so we're looking at a couple of different strategies. One is more, digital focused, right? So identifying people who are maybe like at the big four, people who are working for other accounting firms and may be interested in taking that next step to own their own practice. But I think an overlooked opportunity that we really want to tap into is our own network, right? So we want to bring up people from within Paget, right, who know the way, who know these customers, right? And get them prepared for when the time is right to take on and kind of be like the next generation of owners.
That's very cool. And that's a unique strategy I really haven't heard of, but it makes so much sense. A lot of times, when I was with Made Pro, we had these great owners that knew the business right and left. And when the owner was ready to sell, it was like, oh, obviously we should sell to the 20-year manager. So I think that that is an incredible strategy that I think a lot of people should take note of. And then, kind of switching over from the franchise process, and this isn't the most streamlined way to get to the next topic, but we'll just go for it. So when it comes to like social media, TikTok, how do you handle the coaching of your franchisees that are like, well, why do I have to be on social media? I'm an accounting firm. Or do you guys say don't go on that? How do you handle kind of the more emerging platforms in order to promote Paget?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our franchisees, I actually see sometimes think of social media as like an alternative to going door to door, right? Because back in the day, the way that you like drummed up business when you were first starting out was you went door to door. Like you literally knocked on 100 doors and you got two clients and then you built up from there. And so
Mhm.
from their perspective, there's an opportunity to network and find clients on social media. That said, what I haven't seen is that they're consistently having the time and energy and commitment to maintain a presence on social media with a few notable exceptions. And
Mhm.
so what we've introduced at Paget is social media management, right? So we've selected Sprout Social after a lot of research.
Mhm.
And so franchisees have the option to, sign up for a managed account through Sprout Social. And then we are essentially creating and publishing content
Mhm.
that is, relevant to their clients on their behalf. The other option that franchisees have is that they can use Sprout's like advocacy platform where we send them a weekly digest of posts
Mhm.
and they can choose which ones to post to their pages. So we really do give them, that resource of
Mhm.
like, we can take it on for you. You'll have a presence, but you don't have to be actively involved in the day to day.
That's great because I think aside from, the paid ads, which definitely take more of a professional stance in terms of having someone run it outside of, the regular boosted posts is, yeah, the franchisees that they could be socially savvy, but simply don't have time to be creating blog posts and sharing things. And I think what's really great about your Sprout social partnership is that you can have the ones that just automatically get it on their page, disseminate the information, or, the ones where they can opt in and pick and choose. Because we had one where it was just everyone was just automated, and then we'd get the people that in Florida that were like, "You sent out a Christmas newsletter and it doesn't snow here." So, having that option to control as little or as much as they want is really great, and keeping them up to date. And I love your quote about social being the new door to door because I still hear a lot of people in the business going, "No, social doesn't work. I need to go door to door." And I'm like, "Well, what is it about door to door that you think works? Is it because you're physically seeing people or physically putting, a yard sign in someone's lawn when the ROI can be very similar to social media. You're just not getting that human interaction. So I think that that's a really good point of, okay, well, how many clients did you actually get from door to door? How much did you pay and how long didn't you do that? And can you do the same thing on social media for a lot less? So I think that was a very expert way of explaining that. I knew this was going to be a good podcast. um, so continuing your marketing planning for 2022, obviously you said the pandemic was good for you guys or you were in a helpful business there. What are your plans for 2022 in terms of the business? Seems like there's obviously a peak season. Is it more seasonal than I'm guessing, or is it just kind of pretty flat with spikes in tax season? And how do you market around those certain kind of spikes in business?
Yeah. We are a very seasonal business, but more and more like our accountants, they don't want to be in this position where they're slammed for 4 months and then things are really slow. And so what we're trying to do is to really, line up with seasonal demand, right? So the more that we can get ahead of January by doing a lot of our marketing in Q4, which with the exception of September and October, I guess Q3 and Q4 is kind of a good time, right? Because businesses are getting ahead of their planning cycle for the following year. Accountants have more bandwidth. So that is something that we really want to play into, especially as we start to strengthen our tech stack for our firms and put them in a better position to handle more demand.
Got it. Yeah, I like that. And I think a lot of people think, oh, if it's not tax season or it's not high season, I don't have to market at all. But really it's, making sure that pipeline and workflow is steady so that you are not pulling your hair out for 4 months of the year. I know my accountant hates me because I'm the one that does nothing. And then I'm like, oh, here's all my money. Help me. So I might be looking about a Padgett near me pretty soon.
Oh, yes.
And then internally, you guys have all these franchisees. Seems like it's a smooth running machine with, of course, your occasional outliers. So how is your current marketing team structured? And when do you know that it's time to either grow or, outsource or make any sort of changes internally to help you scale with the franchise system?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined Padgett, I suppose, the first marketing hire in a while. And so we built up from there, and we have a great team now, but we are kind of a lean team. So we have a designer, we have a content and social media strategist. There seems to be like more and more I'm noticing that younger writers are also very adept at social media and kind of understand how to leverage it. So there's just a lot of overlap in the skill set. And so we were lucky to find someone who really has both. And then we have a wonderful marketing manager who really like oversees everything in the, day-to-day marketing operations and responding to franchisee support requests, like where could I find the logo? I think that where we're going to have to start to staff up is once our franchise recruiting machine gets going. And I think we're going to want someone on the marketing side who really helps us tackle like onboarding and launch of a new franchise. So I see that as like our next hire potentially.
Very cool. And when you bring on a new person that do the onboarding and launch, so are they and this is, I'm just curious there, are the potential franchisees in charge of selecting their location, or do you have someone internally that helps them with like the real estate back end of things?
We do have someone who helps facilitate that. Yes.
Yeah, I was just curious because a lot of times it's mostly, marketing, onboarding, and then some franchises are like hands off and other ones are like, nope, we'll assist you in that. Well, very cool. And I think another thing to note that is how recession resistant this industry is. I think, a lot of times people will see home services or business services and it's not sexy. Accounting and cleaning toilets and cutting down tree branches is not the sexiest thing. They're like, why would I want to own that? So, for our listeners out there who, could potentially be interested in purchasing one, what do you have to say to them about how, like, why Padgett basically?
Yeah. So I think our value proposition is unique in that, you really can work on your terms, right? It's a professional services business. So, to your question about real estate, like you don't have to buy real estate. You could work out of a WeWork, you could work from home. You could take on as many or as few clients. You could hire remote staff, right? So we really do like you can move anywhere in the country, right? And you could serve clients anywhere. So, and a lot of the accounting software today makes that possible. So I think that's a unique thing that we offer. And we do also offer, of course, like really good margins on the work that you do.
That's really
And then yeah, and I think like this is true of any franchise, but we offer the community, right? That comes from like not being alone, like should anything go wrong, bless you, as it often does. So I think those are some of the aspects.
Yeah, and that strikes a point for me is most franchises can't hire remotely. So did you guys get hit with any of the hiring issues, or you did still with the remote?
Absolutely. We got hit with, and I mean, generally there's a shortage of accountants out there.
Sure,
It's
sure,
very hard to hire to
sure.
the extent where like sometimes owners have to think creatively about maybe hiring someone with a strong finance background or someone who's just interested in business operations. So yeah, that's absolutely a challenge.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. Even if you can hire for remote jobs, everyone is having trouble staffing nowadays. And then
Yes.
another question is, for people, for consumers out there who are now seeing, you're rebranded, it's a great brand, you've got good messaging. If they're to make a switch from their current accountant, which a lot of it is just like, oh, referral or my parents used them or, whatever, how do you message to make that conversion, or how do you position your franchises to market themselves to try to get people to come over to Padgett, especially if they already have someone in place?
Yeah. And, like you said, like when we look at the reasons that people switch to us as reported by our franchisees and surveys we do, to your point, a lot of it comes from like my accountant retired, right? Or, my accountant made mistakes on my return, or I came in through a referral, or I moved, right? So there are
Okay.
life events that we try to play into. We try a lot to work through a referral. So, like someone's banker or real estate agent or lawyer might refer them to Paget. So, we just want to be there and be ready for the circumstance where people need a new accountant. So, we are a bit more passive in that regard.
Mhm. No, I like that. And I mean, it makes so much sense that one, not only bit partnerships in the community, but just, like-minded partnerships, with lawyer, banker, and then also marketing to kind of the life stages. So it's less poaching, as you said, and more, okay, now you've changed kind of like, oh, welcome to your new house. Don't forget you also need a new accountant type thing, which is I think is really great and definitely something you can do, especially being as established as you are. Well, Anna, this was so great and like so succinct and fulfilled with knowledge, just how I like it. But I have a couple other questions that our listeners really love. And the first one is, how would you define success as a franchisor? And does that differ from how you define success as a franchisee?
That is a good question. So I think yes, I think there are some key differences, right? So as a franchisor, like ultimately our success is on how many good, right new franchises we can bring on board, right? So we don't want just anyone, right? We want franchisees who will be successful. And I suppose in that we're aligned with our franchisees and that their success is our success. But certainly like we measure ourselves not on how many end clients we bring in, but on how many franchises that are like-minded can we add to the Paget network,
Hmm.
right? Like that is our measure of success. Like, can we take on H&R Block?
Sure.
Not that we're similar, but for our franchisees, I think success is not just having more clients. Like it's having the right clients. It's having the clients that, aren't just there for their tax return. They're there for like the business advice, the regular monthly accounting work.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I am literally writing down your quote as we speak because I think that that is just like the heart of any business success is, not just clients, but the right ones, because the right ones are going to propel you forward. And that's what you should be aiming for. I think a lot of times, especially with this employee marketing now, is everyone's just trying to fill the top of the funnel as quickly as possible and seeing it more harm in their business or, costing them more in the long term than finding, the right people. So kind of getting back on track with that. And then finally, what's one piece of advice you could give to a corporate franchisor team? And then what's a piece of advice you would give to franchisees?
Sure. Oh, I love giving advice. So in terms of franchisor teams, I think it's like be very mindful of your capacity, right? So we try as much as possible to leverage partners, right? Like we talked about, like, Fast Sign, Sprout Social, like the more that you can leverage partners to serve your franchisees, the more you as a team can focus on putting the right processes in place, creating a playbook, right, for marketing best practices.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you can quickly get overwhelmed. And like I've made that mistake before.
Okay.
So being mindful of capacity, I think that's probably the thing I wish I knew when I started out. And in terms of advice for franchisees, I think it's really to believe, and I hope this is true, is that the franchisor like wants you to win, right? Like they're not trying to be onerous and impose, miscellaneous compliance on you. Like your success is their success and vice versa. So they very much want you to grow, and like, it's just there's a shared win there. So I think there's kind of a love-hate relationship with franchisors and franchisees, but ultimately, we want them to win.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love that. And I always say it's like a kind of like a older sibling, younger sibling rivalry and love. Like just so you said, the love hate relationship where, yeah, don't be whipping the FDD at me, every second, but also, I should also be following the system I bought into. So plain and simple. Well, and thank you again. I really appreciate you spending the time with us. I feel like this was like literally a master class in just business and franchising. If you want to learn more, you can go to Padgett Business Services. They're all over the internet with their brand new logo. And also you can find Anna on LinkedIn. So thanks a lot. And it was great having you on the Art of Franchise Marketing.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by Netsertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netsertive.com.